Nigel.
In the previous video about this e-Mini, we started with 106 miles of range at 100% state of charge. We then drove 54 miles back down to 69% state of charge with 70 miles left on the GOM, and then added 2 kilowatt hours and 8 miles of range on the Zappy charger at home before setting off again, driving 12 miles really economically back down to 69% and 74 miles left on the GOM. And this is where we join this new video. So I've just set off on the return trip to Bury St Edmonds. I've reset the trip meter. We've got 69% of battery to go. It says 75 miles to go, and yet I've already done 63, 65 this morning, etc. So it's going to be tight, because especially I've got the air conditioning on the way back, which I didn't have on the way there, and I'm going to drive a little bit more spirited on the way as well. So I want to see what normal efficiency would be like versus good efficiency if you're really trying, so I can see if there's a difference between it, plus also having air conditioning on. But I actually need the air conditioning on because, can you believe, my phone's just overheated. The camera kept cutting out because it was overheating. It sat on the dash with the sun on it, and without air conditioning on, yeah, it overheated. So back in this e-Mini, why have I gone for a longer test drive? And I honestly think a 20-30 minute test drive in an electric car is not long enough. It might be just in a petrol car, because maybe they're all the same sort of thing, but now there's so much technology in a car and so many modes in the car and so many things that are critical to your use of the car, and that's the charging and the efficiency in different scenarios, different driving environments. You need longer with the car. Really, they should be giving it to you for 24 hours or 48 hours. There is a lot to get used to in an electric car, and that's exactly what I'm doing today. That's why I've got this longer test drive. The long trip from, I say long trip, 60-65 miles, backwards and forwards between Norwich and Newmarket, or Norwich and Bury St Edmonds. Those are critical journeys for us, and it would be nice if we could do it in this e-Mini in one stop without charging. And my guess is it's going to do it in the summer, and it's not going to do it in the winter. But it's how squeaky bum is it going to be, and am I going to be able to have air conditioning on? And without doing the journey, engaging what actually happens with the car in different environments, then you're just not going to know. And that's why I'm back in the car, to do that long test trip, to see how the car gets on over a longer trip, not just around the block in Bury St Edmonds, all the way back to Norwich, turning around after some lunch and back again, which is what I'm doing. So yeah, why am I coming this route? Well, basically, I'm coming down to Reedham Ferry. There's an old ferry, a chain ferry that pulls you across the river. So if I cut through from Norfolk into Suffolk by going via Beccles/Bungay, then I can go down to Bury St Edmonds a completely different route. But I cut a big corner off. So mileage-wise, I'm not sure whether this is quicker miles-wise or not, but it's certainly more attractive. And I've got an idea to stop somewhere on the other side of the ferry and see if I can get some nice pictures of the Mini by the river. So that's why I'm coming this way, which looks rather odd, doesn't it? Why am I going down roads that are only 30 miles an hour? I obviously love doing 30 miles an hour. Right, set the sat-nav. So one of the things I've got to say on this video is an apology. An apology to Mini lovers and to Mini themselves for dissing their sat-nav system. Because in my last video I said I didn't like the Mini sat-nav because it didn't give instructions on time. Well, they've obviously improved it, because this Mini has fantastic instructions. It's very accurate. It's good on the screen, so it tells you what's going on, and it's also very, very good in its audible alerts, telling you 400 meters before you turn, that sort of thing, and then it's very accurate when you actually have to turn. So no, I was completely wrong, and I was wrong to have said it, and I apologise.
Please turn right in 300 yards onto Norwich Road.
There you go, so spot on time, 300 yards, which I can now see it on the sat-nav and see it ahead, and let's see when it actually tells me.
Now turn right turn left.
See, that was a good 10-15 metres before, and that was absolutely perfect. The Mini we have, which is 3 years old, and the Mini we tested before that, which was an 18 reg Mini, that was appalling with the sat-nav instructions.
Onto Norwich Road.
The only thing I don't really like about the sat-nav is this iDrive stuff with the dial that you spin. I don't know, maybe I'm just used to having and touching the screen up the top, so I'm used to changing modes up here rather than down here. It just doesn't feel comfortable. It feels awkward getting from one thing to another. If I want the trip meter to appear on the screen, so the easiest way I think is I go into menu and then I have to turn the dial, press the car, driving information, onboard computer. That's quite a few clicks to get to it, and then to get out of it I have to move the iDrive to the left, now spin the dial round to trip computer, and now there's the trip computer, which actually that's not very good. I haven't been driving that assertively and I'm only at 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour. That's not going to get me there. That's not very good.
Please turn right in 400 yards onto Freethorpe Road.
Let's hope it improves as we move along. Yeah, I'm not familiar with where all the buttons are to press the map button to get the map back again. You can see them up here. You have to take your eyes completely away from your driving to look at what's on those buttons unless you know exactly where they are. So I guess when you become familiar with it, your hand can just slide over the buttons and you're fine. But right now for me, I have to actually look at the buttons to see what I'm doing, and that's not ideal. I think that's what I don't like about it. I also apologise to Mini for saying that the reversing camera doesn't have guidance lines on. It does have guidance lines. They're a little bit hard to find. It took the dealer a little bit of time to find them as well. You have to be in reverse with the reversing camera up, then you can move the iDrive wheel across, and then it does add lovely green lines onto the screen to help you.
200 yards, you will have reached your destination.
It helps you, guide you when you're reversing, so very, very good. I'll see if I can get a picture of that as well.
You have reached your destination.
That's excellent, thank you very much. So what else can I tell you that I haven't told you in my previous video about this Mini? I've been fiddling with the steering and the seat quite a lot. There's quite a lot of reach and rake on the steering wheel that you can adjust, and I've been adjusting the seat so I lay back a little bit more in it and pushing the steering wheel further forward, and I found that I've got a much more comfortable driving position than I had last time I test drove the car, so I do feel very, very comfortable in the car. The same feel of in control of the car as last time, that's still there, so the car's really tight on the steering, so you definitely feel that every bit of input is giving a movement to the car, and all the stalks are firm, the accelerator's firm, everything's solid. BMW, great quality. It's a chunky feeling car, whereas the Kona and the Ioniq, everything's very soft and easygoing and light on the steering wheel, light to turn. It's just completely different. This car feels different in your hands because of that firmness and stiffness of the suspension, the steering, even the throttle pedal is a little bit more hard to actually push down. So I'm enjoying that. I quite like that. The gauges, yeah, I'm really enjoying all the gauges. I think the trip meter is a bit odd though, because over on the screen over here on the trip meter, it doesn't actually show you the number of miles in the trip. It shows you the miles per kilowatt hour and other things, but that's it. So here we are, we're at Reedham Ferry, a great pub on the river. Well, what is this? Is this the River Yare or the River Wensum? I can never remember. Wensum's smaller, so this must be the Yare. And this is a yonks old ferry that no doubt used to be pulled manually somehow. But now there's well, I guess it's a diesel barge on a set of chains, and it just pulls yourself across the river. It's worth a trip and saves quite a few miles depending on where you're driving to. So I've talked about the seats. They're really great for holding you. They're not quite as comfortable as the Kona for really long distance journeys. They're a bit firmer, but they're definitely not flat like the Ioniq. There's loads of side bolster support, so they really hold you in the corner. So I really like them. The interior finish is absolutely fantastic. There's a little bit too much piano black for my liking. Everything's going to need an anti-static dust all the time, but it's lovely soft materials, not like the Ioniq with fake leather. The steering wheel feels nice and solid in your hands. All of the controls work extremely easy. The gear change is a little bit odd, that you have to push a side button on the lever here and then push it forward for reverse or back for drive, and that's a little bit odd to have to press the button to do it, whereas on the Hyundai and Kia cars it's just pressing a button or turning a dial, not a combination of the two things. Then you've got a park button that you have to push the park button here rather than move it into a park position, so it's an odd combination, but it works. You know, there's nothing wrong with it. The regen's really strong. It's definitely one pedal driving. I do like it. It's odd that I don't have a regen level 0 like in the Kona or the Ioniq, so you can't coast in this car. Somebody said in my last video you can coast effectively by modulating the throttle, but what this car does really well is it holds you, so it keeps an amount of regen on all of the time and makes you feel in control of the speed you're doing. Whereas if you're driving around in regen 0 on one of these Hyundai cars, you do find you get to a corner and the car drives on faster than perhaps you would have liked to. And we're off. I've got a return ticket, yeah.
Yep, thank you very much.
Thank you. So stick it in park. Handbrake on. So what else can I tell you about this car? I've noticed that the climate controls, I mean, it's cooling the car lovely and my phone's not overheating anymore, which is great. But let's take the camera out. But it doesn't gust very hard. And there's our driver. Yeah, so the air conditioning, it's a little bit odd that the power of the fan and the air that comes out isn't very much. You know, you can't put your head in front and dry your hair on it. It's not really gusting out gale force anything. Whereas the Kona, I think, has more powerful fans. So that's about the only thing I can notice on this. If I turn it up full, yeah, it's doing an adequate job, but it's not fantastic. Down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And just have it on fan speed 1 and then it's not making any noise. But I can't really find any fault in this car. It looks good, it drives good, it looks good on your driveway, the technology just works. One of the things that I just found recently on the car is staggered at that I really was expecting that I would lose the minimum and reduced charge rates if I went with the Mini rather than the Kona. I do like the reduced charging rates on the solar charging on my Zappy charger, and this has got it too. It's got reduced rates of both reduced and minimum, so very pleased with that. It's also got timed charging as well. So it seems to have everything. need to tell you more about the car, don't I? And what I've noticed. And yes, I've noticed that on A roads and B roads, I am drifting on the road a little bit more than I do in my Kona because I don't have lane keep assist. I think I've got lazy in my driving, and coming on these tighter, twistier roads is helping me grab hold of the steering a little bit more like I used to and drive it more normally. I've had a little bit too much assistance with this lane keep assist, keeping you in the lane. So this is nice to get back to normal. But I guess that's the theme, you know, there's no lane keep assist, it's not got any self-steering, it hasn't got adaptive cruise control, radar control, so it's lacking some of that technology, but I sort of like that. Susan never uses any of it anyway, she never uses any of the technology in the car, so for her, this is perfect, and for me, well, they were nice to haves, but not really necessary. I did like auto recuperation, so it braked for you if it saw an obstacle ahead. That was quite good. And I liked rear cross alert on the reversing camera. Those were great features on the Kona. They were useful. Whereas I don't think any of the other things I'd miss from the Kona to this, apart from maybe heated steering wheel. That is the big omission with the Mini. The piano black trim here on the dashboard, that's in level 2. In level 1, it's more checkered, like it's like a fake carbon fibre. It looks a little bit odd and a bit cheap and nasty. I don't like it. I guess those, because there's one here as well, I guess those are actually replaceable. So you could just take them off and have them replaced with the black ones, because the black ones are what's in our Mini 7. So they're no doubt stock items you could just replace anyway. But I like this Mini 2 because of the seat fabric. I like it because of the reversing sensors and the camera that you get, but also level 2 comes with a different colour choice, and the colours are included in the price. So if I want metallic black, I basically have to have level 2, but then it's included in the price, it's not an option. So for the extra, say, £600 or £700 you might pay for a metallic colour, that's part of the 2,000 extra from level 1 to level 2. So level 2 sounding, you know, not particularly a rip-off. It sounds like there's some good features in this car that make the level 2 worth it. It's got the boot lining to make it a flat boot area as well. Again, you know, you could add that yourself afterwards, but it's nice to get it. It's all those little nice to haves that make it worthwhile, I think, having the level 2. The level 3, we've already got the Mini 7, which has the full leather seats, and they are extremely good seats, very, very soft and comfortable. So if I wanted more sumptuous seats than this, then the level 3 with that full leather, they're the way to go. And then also you get the sunroof, so it is sort of worth it for that. But £6,000 extra from level 1, £4,000 extra from level 2 to get to a level 3 for the leather seats, the sunroof, and I guess it's got some upgraded media systems in it and a few other bits and pieces. But
please turn left in 200 yards onto the street.
That's the big stuff, really. There isn't really anything else that you're going to get for that money. So I think the level 2 is the optimum on not spending too much.
Now turn left.
But level 3 is obviously, well, it's got more features on it. It's higher spec trim. It's obviously the best.
Right in 200 yards onto Beccles Road.
It's obviously the best car out of the bunch, but I'm not sure if it's worth that extra £4,000 over a level 2.
Now turn right.
So this is what I like in the Mini. A nice sharp corner, no body roll, straight round, and it feels good in your hands doing it. Totally in control on the regen, no sort of braking for the corner. That's where the Mini really wins as a driver's car, just how it feels on, not driving like you're on a racetrack. I'm not saying you've got to be a boy racer to enjoy it, but it's not a thrill, but it's just an enjoyment, a connection with the car. Whereas the Hyundai, it has it more than many other, the Kona has it more than any other electric cars I tested, and that's why I bought it. But it's on another level with this Mini. This Mini is definitely a fun driver's car. It's a more, saw the marketing video for the Mini, and it's all just young people jumping up and down and dancing, and they hardly show the Mini at all. So they also see it as a lifestyle car for the younger generation, but I'm not so convinced. People like me in the 50s and people older in the 60s are going to love this car. They love the heritage of Mini. They love it feeling small and nimble in the hands, even though it's not necessarily a small car. Here we go, let's have a bit of spirited driving. We're in a 60-mile-an-hour limit, so, and there's a van behind us that wants us to go a bit faster, so it is just so enjoyable.
Please turn right in 400 yards onto Yarmouth Road.
Where the Ioniq would be sloppy around the corners and you'd be coming out of the seats, etc. This is... it's not like it's on rails sort of thing.
And then turn left.
But it's really, really enjoyable to drive. And I guess that's the problem with efficiency. Maybe that's with these test drives where they've only been getting 90 miles of range or something. Okay.
Now turn left onto Fulton Road.
Maybe these test drives where people have only been getting 80, 90 miles is because it is a car that wants to be driven, and maybe they are doing exactly that, just driving it a bit more assertively. Because yeah, just a couple of roads there, that was fun. And wow, we're down to 45 miles of range left, and I've got 46 miles to go. Oops. Oops. Oh, that's not clever. But it says I've got more than 50%. That can't be right. I've got 60% battery left. 60% battery. That's got to be way more than 45 miles. Right, so this GOM reading is quite misleading. But a bit daunting. I mean, it is odd that here I am in an electric car. I've been used to the Kona with 300 mile range, and I've got 45 miles of range left and 45 miles to go on my journey. And I'm not panicking. I don't think it's really hit me yet because I've got to work out in my mind it's going to get there. It was basing it just on that spirit of driving and its previous driving history. It must be. It can't run out. And I had 2 kilowatt hours of energy as well at home. Right, so perhaps I can understand when you drive it more assertively and put your foot down and enjoy the car, you don't get a lot of range. Why is that? Because in the Kona, if you drive spiritedly, when you brake, it uses the regen and gains most of it back. It still gives really good efficiency. So the regen on this can't be as good. And yet my test that I just did showed that it was. It's all a bit of a mystery. It doesn't sort of make sense. This car's really economical, but then it's seemingly not really economical. Yeah, it's difficult to figure out. I guess I can trust the battery percent. If I've got 50% battery left, and I've actually got 60, so if I say 50% is 14 kilowatt hours, 14 times 4 is 56. That's plenty to get me there because I've got 44 to go. So I'll have 12 left plus 10%. So yeah, this GOM must be out. It can't be correct. Well, one of them's out either. Either the GOM's wrong or the state of charge is wrong. So we shall see, won't we? Because I'm not stopping to charge. I'm going to keep going. 44 miles left of range in the Kona. I would feel desperate to charge. I would feel, oh my goodness, I've cut it quite close, haven't I? Because that would be down to single-digit percentages on the battery. It would be very, very low. But here I am with a GOM reading 44 miles, and yet the battery says 57%. Well, that went down quickly, didn't it, from 60%? the numbers here aren't really doing the car any favours and aren't giving you faith with what's really going on. One of the other things you'll notice in an electric car, and I'm starting to see it in this one already, is the different cars react differently with their range to go. The guessometer on the dash here is saying 44 miles to go, but it said 44 miles a few minutes ago, and then it said 43. So this one is adjusting very, very quickly to my driving style. So my little bit of assertive driving back there, it adjusted my GOM really, really fast. Whereas the Kona wouldn't do that. The Kona would trust that your average is what you're going to do, and it would only adjust more aggressively when you get down to lower percentages on the battery. So it is interesting to see how this GOM is reacting, and it is fluctuating very, very quickly. I've now only got 41 miles to go to get there, and 44 miles on the guessometer, on the GOM. So I now have enough range, but that's because I've calmed down a little bit. I'm not driving as assertively. Yeah, we're doing 52 miles an hour. I'm not driving slow. I'm leaving a big gap to the car ahead. There's no need for me to be in the boot of the car ahead. So I'm keeping up with their speed. But if I press the accelerator and speed up, wow, this thing's got some punch. Wow. I mean, that's in green mode as well, not sport mode. This thing has some punch. The Ioniq I just tested was gutless compared to that. Yes, it had a sharp throttle at the top, but it was so laggy. I did notice on this one though, when you lift off after going very quick, it doesn't go down onto the regen very, very quickly. Now it is. Now it's strongly onto the regen. It tries to coast. That's odd. It's an odd feeling that didn't do that in my Kona or the Ioniq or any of the other cars I've driven that I remember. It seems to lift off and coast a little bit after going quick, whereas I'm used to accelerating fast and then off and it's straight into regen, where this one coasts a little bit to start with. Yes, different. But wow, yeah, this really has some punch to it. It's like the Kona in sport mode. It punches you in the back a little bit. It really does feel fast. Whereas the Ioniq, it had enough horsepower and it's quick in sport mode, but you didn't feel it. It just didn't feel that you were going very quick at all. Yeah, this is a lovely sporty car to own and drive. I mean, most people will potter around in it, the owners that buy it, but to have that performance sat there ready to use is very, very nice. Enough of playing with the throttle. I do want to get there without running out. So we shall see anyway. So we're down to 54%. I have noticed on the dash with the little bars at the side, the white bars that indicate what percentage you've got. It's a little bit odd that it's marked out in percentages. So you've got 0%, 50% and 100%. But then you've got 8 white bars. So they're roughly 12% each. Now, why couldn't they have 10 bars and do it every 10%? That would have been much, much easier to work out. But 4 bars is now showing 50%, whereas 4 12s, because they're 8 bars, are 48%. And yet we are actually at, come on, 54%. So it's just from those bars, you can't quite work out what the battery percent is. And what I noticed on the first one dropped the first bar, not at 12% down, but at 9% down. It was at 91% battery. And then the next one dropped when we got to, I think it was 81, 82%, that sort of range again. So it wasn't dropping at the top at 12%, since there are 8 bars there. So I'm really not sure what's going on with these bars, whether maybe 0 isn't 0. Maybe 0 is where it tells you need to go and recharge, and then you've got some contingency. I guess we're going to be quite close, so we're actually going to find out. There was a feature feature I played with slightly. There was an auxiliary air conditioning setting, and it looks like when the car's off, you can basically press that and then it will condition the car. I'd have to look that up in the manual and see what that's about, but it almost looks like it's camping mode, like it's utility mode in the Kona. It would be interesting to see whether it really has that or not, because I do use that feature. I do park the car up, put it into utility mode, and turn the air conditioning on. So the car's not physically on, but the air conditioning is, and you're using the high voltage battery. Yeah, so I'll probably ask the dealership when I get back whether it has that feature. Right, mileage update. What are we doing? The sat-nav says we have 32 miles to go until we get back to the dealership. The car says it's now 49% battery. It hasn't gone down any more bars on the side, so between the 54% and the 49%, we haven't lost another bar yet. It's still showing roughly 50%. That's good. I'm getting nice sat-nav instructions here inside the dash binnacle as well, telling me to go straight on in 1/4 of a mile. So we must have some sort of a junction here, and it's telling me to go straight through.
Please leave the roundabout at the second exit towards Road A143 this.
Okay, yep. So I've got nice instructions on the sat-nav screen, and they're appearing in front of the dash. Now it's changed, telling me to go straight ahead.
Please leave the roundabout at the second exit.
It's telling me it is a roundabout symbol, and take the second exit on here on the dash as well, and counting down. 60 yards, 50 yards, 40 yards, 30, 20, 10, turn. Oh, that is just so accurate. That is so accurate that it's displaying it on the dash here down to 10 yards. Very, very good sat-nav system. Sorry, Mini, for getting it wrong last time. This gauge down the other side, this yellow set of bars, where it's got 100%, which is power, 50% here, e-power down here, ready and charge. So e-power must be, if you're in this range, which I am, then you're in economical driving. So squirt the accelerator, and we're now up to 50, and then back to E. Let off the accelerator, and it's dipping into charge slightly. So all of that is very nice. I do find with Susan's driving, the way she gets good economy is she watches these gauges, and on the Kona there was like a white bar, and she said she could drive without any white bars at all, which makes it look like you're not pressing the accelerator at all. And it was between 1 or nothing, and that was how she got really good economy. She would hover gently on the throttle until she didn't have any bars showing. One of the things I haven't tried on the car, if I get a chance, I'll do it again at the dealership, is the Mini app and the Mini connectivity. I haven't even plugged my phone into Bluetooth on the car. I can see it's got Bluetooth. I don't know if it's got Android Auto automatically. I'll have to find that out as well. I think it does. I think it does have Android Auto connectivity. But the e-Mini services, I'd like to find out about the app and what that does. It looks like it's a preconditioning app. It tells you what your charge rates are. That all looks really quite good. So I would like to see that demonstrated. The fuel filler flap, yes, it does have a catch for putting the cap on, so the Type 2 cap fits on the handle on the latch, but I must admit it was a plastic cover. It is a shame that the flap wasn't metal and a little bit more solid. So yeah, I guess even Mini with its quality puts a little bit of plastic in every now and then. I haven't tried the heated seats, obviously, because it's 35 degrees outside. I have no inclination to try the heated seats. But I have tried the boot. The boot you have to be very gentle with. It slams quite easily, so the weighting of the shutting of the boot is very, very good. So you can hold it at very low height and it will click in place as it should do, unlike the Kona that you have to slam. But from inside the car, when you're inside, unless you shut the rear hatch gently, it does feel like you're slamming it. And I think that's why when you open and shut the driver and passenger doors, the windows just crack down a little bit as well. So there's obviously like a pressure issue in the car, because what was the old car that used to do that? The Vauxhall Tigra. The Vauxhall Tigra, when it came out, used to smash the windows, the driver, passenger and rear window, when you'd shut the doors because of the air pressure inside. So they designed it just to drop the windows a little as you you opened and shut the doors. The Mini does exactly the same, but when you're shutting the boot, it doesn't do that, and it does feel a little uncomfortable if you're sat inside, especially in the back, when you're slamming the boot. So my recommendation is be really, really gentle with the boot, just so your passengers don't get deafened eardrums. But I guess the concerning thing about this Mini, this E-Mini, is the range. So let's go back to that again. 23 miles of range, sorry, 23 miles to go until I get to my destination, but I've now got 37 miles of range. We've just gained 14 miles back by driving at 50 odd mile an hour and not hooning around a little bit, not enjoying the car necessarily. So the GOM is reacting very, very quickly. But yeah, for people that are going to buy the Mini and are concerned about the range, seeing just 36 miles left to go, they are going to worry about it a little bit, but I can't believe that I'm not. I can't believe I've come from a car that's got 300 mile range, and I'm so used to having huge numbers on the GOM, and now I really just don't mind, and I don't mind seeing a tiny number. And I think the reason I don't mind seeing a tiny number is because I'm trusting the battery gauge. It still says half full. It's still got 4 bars, which is roughly showing 50%, and the actual gauge is showing 43%. So what I'm trying to say is, even though this only says 37 miles to go, because it says 42% battery, I don't feel nervous. 37 miles is a long distance. 42% on the battery is quite a lot on the battery. Now, if I was getting nervous, I could slow down and I could get even more miles per kilowatt hour, and then I would definitely get there, etc. But because I know that I've only got 20 miles to go on the sat-nav and 37 to go on the GOM, I don't have to worry about it or think about it at all. So a low range, a small battery, doesn't stop you enjoying this car, and it doesn't give me range anxiety at all. Now, I will admit that when I was driving more spirited around a few of the corners back there, and then the range on the car dipped quite quickly, then yes, I did start to think, ooh, I can't drive like that the whole way back this time. So if I did that, then I guess it would go down. So I must admit, let's have a go. So let's keep to the speed limit, but we're just over. But let's see what happens. Oh, here we go, 30 limit. Nice bit of regen. Wow, the brakes are powerful. I wasn't pressing on the brake pedal very hard at all. I was literally just resting my foot on the brake pedal, and that dropped from 60 to 30 extremely quickly. Yeah, lovely brakes in this, absolutely lovely. We've got 16 miles to go till we get to the dealership. I wouldn't mind betting when we get very, very close down to a lower range, so it only says 10 or 20 miles to go, I think the range will start going up again. So, because it was quite a while ago I was saying we had 44 miles of range, and we've still got 34 miles of range, and yet we've gone down 30 miles on the trip, and we've only gone 10 miles down on the gauge. So we've gained 20 miles somewhere. So my advice with Mini owners, or people considering the Mini, you can sort of ignore the GOM, ignore this 34 miles to go, and concentrate more on the battery percentage and your miles per kilowatt hour. And we are averaging on this trip 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour. So with the aircon on, and definitely not trying to do an economy run, I'm getting 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour. Driving the other way, in the other direction, when I was being economical, I managed to get 5.5 miles per kilowatt hour. And then on my extreme economic test drive, we got 6.9 miles per kilowatt hour. So there's quite a lot of variation in there. It looks like, it does look like the air conditioning must be sucking a fair bit of power out. The big thing to mention in this car, again, for people that are considering the Mini as their first electric car, is this one pedal driving. I'm just taking it for granted because I'm used to it, and I'm taking it for granted because it's so intuitive, but you just don't have to use the brake pedal. It's so much more of an enjoyable, easy drive. the throttle at just the right speed, but if I speed up towards this truck and now foot off the throttle, it brakes again. So much so that the truck's going ahead. So it's extremely easy to drive just on the throttle, and you don't have to brake at all. So even if this truck now brakes, or we come to a roundabout, I'll just let off the throttle, and we won't have to use the brake at all. And that does make the drive so much more enjoyable than the petrol versions or the diesel versions. Okay, latest update, 13 miles to go on the sat-nav, 32 miles of range left on the car. So again, that 32 number, the GOM, is not going down very quickly, it's going down very slowly, which is good news. Well, cruise control is easy to activate. You just press this button in the middle with the little speedo dial, and that's it, we're on cruise control. Although it's getting closer to the truck now. Yeah. I do miss the cruise control, which is the dynamic one in the Kona, where you can judge the distance as well, and you've got 4 bars and how close you want to travel to the vehicle in front. So it'll speed up and slow down according to whether the vehicle in front is speeding up or slowing down. Yeah, I think all cruise control should have that. That is a really good feature in a car, and the fact this doesn't have it is a little bit of a shame. It's got a speed limiter on it. Just trying to see how low you can activate the cruise control. So 13 it won't activate, 14, 15 can't be activated, 18, 20, there you go, so 20 miles an hour can be activated. Okay, 11 miles to go until we get to the dealership, and still 31 miles of range on the car, so that's still 20 difference. It's been like that for quite a while now. The battery percent, still 35%, 36%, it's gone up one. Obviously a bit of regen coming down the hill. So if we've got a 36%, 36% left, that's just a fraction over a third of the range, and it's saying 31 miles left to go is only 90 miles range. That doesn't feel right. So I've got to wave to the i3. So again, this GOM range doesn't feel right, because a third of the car's range capability is easily 120 miles in these conditions, so a third would be 40 miles. I guess that's only 8 difference or 9 difference, so it's not a big deal, is it? I also hear, and I haven't tried them out because it's not dark, I haven't tried the lights out, but I hear they are super brilliant halogen lights, or LEDs, sorry, not halogen. So very good on battery life as well, but very, very bright. And I do like the Kona lights. You often get flashed for having them on, not on full beam, but they're so bright people do flash you. And okay, that might be bad for them, but that's good for me because you get to see very, very clearly where you're going. They are excellent lights. And I do like in the Kona the auto dipping. I don't know whether this has it, so you basically push the lever forward for the lights to be on full beam, and as soon as it sees a car coming the other way, it takes them off full beam and dips them for you. And I've never thought I would have liked that sort of feature, but you end up becoming so lazy. You just drive around on full beam and you let the car work it out, and you don't have to worry, flick them on, flick them off, flick them on, flick them off. It just does it all itself. So, with all these bits of technology, you do get quite lazy. It is, if you don't have all of those features, it's like going back to basics, isn't it? Actually having to use your windscreen wipers and turn them on if you don't have a rain sensor, having to work out when it's dark and turn your lights on if you don't have a light sensor. Technology is sort of taking over, and we get used to having this technology, which I think in generations to come it'll be a bit dodgy, because people will rely on it, but it's not supposed to be relied on. It's supposed to be as an aid. You're supposed to still be in control and decide when to put your lights on. And that's why I guess you see so many idiots driving around in bad weather conditions during the middle of the day, pouring down with rain, without the lights on, because the light sensors haven't quite triggered to put them on. But it's pretty obvious you ought to have them on. Anyway, more whinging. We like a bit of whinging, don't we? 4.8 miles per kilowatt hour we're averaging at the moment. So it looks like we're going to downside to this is, yeah, this trip...
Please leave the roundabout at the second exit towards Road A143 Bury St Edmonds.
This trip is proving that the car's going to do the range we want in the summer.
Please leave the roundabout at the second exit.
But if it was raining and if it was cold first thing in the morning, we set off early in the morning, I don't think this is going to do it. And it's that quandary again that this is a brilliant, efficient car, but for some reason, as soon as you just do something that the car's not comfortable with, that little bit of assertive driving, and suddenly the range of the car reduces down and the miles per kilowatt hour reduces down. So I've played with the performance a little bit more on this journey back, and we're at 4.8 miles per kilowatt hour, and I've got the air conditioning on. The difference to not having the air conditioning on and driving just economically was 5.5 miles per kilowatt hour.
Leave the roundabout at the second exit towards Road A143 Bury St Edmonds.
So 4.8 with aircon, 5.5 without. We've got enough battery, so let's have a play. God, it is weird when you accelerate and you see cars disappear into the rear view mirror. What on earth must they think? They must think like you've got a hot rod or something, a souped up engine in the car. Sport mode, don't I? And have a go. Because that's still in green. I'm thoroughly enjoying the performance of this. In green mode. So the dash has changed a little bit. We've got a red ring around the speedometer there. I'm noticing the power gauge move up and down a lot faster, so throttle response is a lot more. I can't feel anything different on the steering, but then again I'm not turning a lot of corners at the moment, so it feels very similar, but just a little bit more sharp and lighter on the throttle. So mostly throttle response is what I would say is the difference in sport mode. And obviously we had that huge red dial just to remind you you're in sport mode. But unlike the Ioniq that I test drove a little while ago, when you put it in sport, I thought that was uncomfortable. It didn't suit the car. The car was rolling about too much, so as you went over a brow of a hill, the car went a little light when you were in sport mode and you're driving a little bit more assertively. This doesn't do it. No, in sport mode it's just like eco mode. It's, yeah, I can feel the acceleration on the front, so I can imagine it can understeer in sharp corners, but it just handles the performance much better. So if we flick it down into mid mode,
Prepare to turn right.
yeah, just a little less throttle response. But to be honest, green is perfect. I haven't configured anything in green. We might have a look at that later, but there is plenty of performance in green mode. I don't think I'd want sport or the other one. There's not enough significant difference between the two. Green feels absolutely fine. So now here we go, here's another update for you. So the miles to go on sat-nav until we get back to the dealership are 4.2 miles. And we were staying at 20 miles more on the GOM for quite a while, but now it's still saying 30 on the GOM. So it's suddenly jumped up another 6, we've suddenly gained another 6 miles, even though I've been hooning around in sport mode. The GOM, like I was guessing it would, is now starting to adjust at the lower levels. It stayed at 30 something for about 30 miles. So again, I don't think that GOM reading can be relied on unless it's consistent to your style of driving, because it's used to the manager or the other demonstrator's style of driving. It's not accurate for me. So it's much easier to rely on the battery percent and how many bars you've got, which we've got 2 bars left now. 2 bars left, and 30% of battery, so still nearly a third, just under a third of the battery. 3.6 miles to go, 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour average. Instantaneous, we're doing really well. Average, can you believe we've only averaged 27 miles an hour? That's really slow, isn't it? But I have stopped again, there's lots of stop time included in there. And we've done 54 miles. And we set off with, what did it say? Did it say 68%? 68%, and we've done 54 miles with 31 to go, so 85 miles range on only 68%. That sounds about right. That sounds right. I'll work out all the numbers later. Ooh, wheel spin. So that's in green mode and coming off the roundabout. Definite wheel spin. The Kona, if you give it the beans, whether in sport mode or not, and you're turning a corner at the same time, there's a lot more power than those front wheels can cope with, so it is going to wheel spin very, very easily. That's not a problem though, it just means be sensible. It's like driving a rear wheel car in the wet. You don't press the accelerator really hard and then go, oh, I wonder why I spun. It's got lots of performance, so you use it when it's safe to. Very nice. A little bit of squeal off the tyres again. It's a little rocket ship, this. It's very, very good. So there's my recommendation for you. If you go to a BMW Mini dealership and they want to offer you a 20-minute test drive, a quick test drive, please, please, please tell them that's not enough. You do need longer in the car. For you to be familiar with what... For you to be familiar with the car and its range and how it handles and different roads and different driving environments, you really need to drive the car longer. So I really hope you get some good test drives, and I hope some BMW dealerships start to offer 24-hour test drives in the electric Mini, because if you're going to be like me, you're not going to want to give it back. It is so nice. I would like to keep the car.
So those final numbers, 124 miles driven, 57.5 miles on this last leg, 26 miles remaining on the GOM. Remember, we added 8 miles and 2 kilowatt hours while I charged the car, and we've averaged 4.7 miles per kilowatt hour on this return leg, 5.5 on the way out. But if that battery percent's right at 27%, then 27% of, say, 140 mile range, that's another 36 miles. In hindsight, I'd really like to have known what it would have been like to keep driving for another 20 or 30 miles and see what happens on the battery state of charge and GOM. Don't forget to claim your endurance badge if you've watched this video all the way to the end at 54 minutes. My goodness. Anyway, thank you for watching, everyone, and until the next time, see you again soon. Bye for now. Oh, I think it might be the Honda E next.